We're ready.
Grab that remote. Have that trigger thumb on the play button. Don't press it because we're going to do it on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
That is a very large bag.
That big bag might be Paulinka's.
Looks like she's done some decorating on the walls again.
Anyone who's ever tried to pack for kids totally understands that.
Is that what it's really like?
Yes. When you've got little kids and you don't know what they're going to want and what they're not going to want. Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
And especially where they're at that age where they're eating baby food and you don't know what they're going to want. Or what toy they're going to want. Or
I guess everybody that raised me was just lucky because I just wanted to be outside and read books and stuff.
These two are really coupley all of a sudden, aren't they?
Yeah, not feeling it.
Paulinka looks really sweet.
He reminds me of the dog from the original Riverdale comics.
And the classic, we forgot the kid.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Tiger in from the Brady Bunch. Remember Tiger?
Yes.
I do remember Tiger.
Oh, I remember Tiger.
Yeah. I never thought of that, but I agree with that.
So this episode for me is one of the several times in season 7 that they kind of like repeat something they've done in the past, and I kind of make it like a challenge to always find it. So to me, this is something that if once you see the story of this episode, see who could remember what they're repeating,
you're so
what
right.
they've already done. Yes.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Wait, you're saying that other episodes do that? Every episode does
No,
that?
in season 7, it just seems like they tried so hard to do what had been done by Amy that there's certain things that they kind of just regurgitate.
Like they're recycling it?
This is one of them. You'll see.
You'll see.
Okay.
100%.
I'll probably
like
get
100%
it.
no.
I'll
I love these.
I just remembered what happens in this episode, Dawn.
I love it.
See, this is what it takes, the first few. See.
something is not, this is not a meteor shower. I guessed it. I knew it was something.
Does that count? Something makes everything?
Yes. I wasn't sure. I didn't guess it was him, but I thought it was something not meteor shower.
Right, like he was going to surprise her with something.
Yes, like a computer with Skype on it and him on Skype.
Like a real life rocket.
Yeah.
That's really quick.
Because 2003 was so early. It had so much time to age.
Is a 4-year wine any good? I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't think so, but who knows?
Well, if it's a red wine, it probably needs to age a little longer.
She said the label was pretty. That's how I pick my wine usually.
Oh my gosh, remember TiVo? The sounds of TiVo.
Yep.
TiVo had a very distinctive set of sounds.
Was that a doodle bear that he just threw? Because I definitely owned one of those.
Sábado
I
Gigante.
don't know if I ever had TiVo.
Oh my God.
I had Time Warner. I don't know if Time Warner had TiVo. Maybe.
I used to watch Sábado Gigante. Oh my God.
Who is that? Never heard of that person.
Now,
Oh,
it was a very, very, very famous show, Latin show. It was it went on forever and ever. It was like with prizes.
You talking about
people-
Sábado Gigante?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
And it went off the air like a couple of, not a couple of years ago, but it's been out of the air for a while, but it was like for a long time. It was,
This is
you play
important.
games.
Very long-running variety show.
Yeah.
A
It was a variety
Spanish
show.
language variety show that was very popular.
Sherry
in
has sent
Central
him
and
a
South
letter.
Okay.
Jeez.
It's funny because Sherry is literally Christopher.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard. And then
I mean, I don't
hey,
know.
sorry.
I don't think so. I think that she's, well, we'll talk about it afterwards. I mean, she really like legit left.
The fish tank's distracting me.
They're
Yeah,
showing
the
the
thing like right in
contrast.
between, just right in between them, bubbling right in between them.
I keep looking for the fish. Chris's apartment's much nicer than the one that he had in season 5 and 6.
I think he got more money.
You're right about that.
I know we're past the point also, but the referencing Pedro Moldovar after Sábado Gigante is also ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
It was funny though.
Yeah.
This like roof scene is reminding me of that Hugh Jackman movie, Kate and Leopold. If anyone's ever seen that.
Absolutely.
It's so cute, that movie. I love that.
If I had to guess, this is all inside of a stage, and this is all just on ground level on a stage. And that's just a big, huge paper mache thing
Skylight?
behind them.
The skylight?
Yeah, skylight.
You know, you're right.
Yeah,
it
it
looks
looks
like,
like it's
it's made
painted.
with duct tape or something.
Yeah.
It looks like it's made out of cardboard. It really does.
No. It is an actual building, and that's an actual skylight. And John, you ruin everything.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, is he really
demand kernels.
for you, Shauna?
Keep the magic. Keep the magic.
I'm just joking. Maybe.
Look at him talking all business.
It's incredible how he was such a slacker and now he's focused.
Totally. He's on the path towards becoming a little Mitchum.
He obviously
No,
learned
don't say
something
that.
at
No.
school.
He's not Mitchum. He's just, smart.
On the path.
Yeah.
On the path.
Okay.
The path Mitchum put him on.
I love that. A work dork. I'm a work dork.
Oh, believe me, we know.
I'm a full-fledged work dork. I love that. I love that. I want to get like a sticker and put it like a little, like one of those like hello.
You should get a hat
That's
with
for you in the room.
Okay, where are our
snapback.
sticker makers? That's the next project. Is it Shelley? Come on.
I'm a sticker maker.
Sometime during season 6, I actually almost called you a work dork, and then I realized that I would have been spoiling.
Nice.
John, you can go to the mall with one of those hat stores and you can have that like stitched onto a hat with a snapback that you can wear back.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I would love a hat that says work dork on it. I'm a work dork.
You gotta listen, you guys.
Somebody farted.
Taylor just came to
I
the
couldn't
lobby.
hold it in. I saw it.
Check out the boots on Lorelai.
Check out the hair on Lorelai. Her hair looks awesome.
She looks hot.
Michelle would definitely be, the one to survive.
Oh my God. What's going on?
It's the great sting.
The town is decaying.
Pay attention.
I
But
did it.
it's decaying, but
It goes with the Halloween decorations though.
Of course, Kirk thinks doesn't smell half bad.
One giant pickle.
So it's pot.
it's pickles.
Oh my gosh, that is such a funny reference. Oh my gosh.
So
I
it's
never
not
thought
rotten
about that
eggs this
before.
time, but it's pickles.
Yeah.
For the record,
Pickles.
there's a theory that it's the stench of the bodies that Mia has been.
Oh,
Regina's theory.
Or not buried, because then it wouldn't have smelled.
Of course, the Regina Gill would say something like that.
Mia needs to learn to dig her graves deeper.
Sally with her fingers right up her nose is hilarious.
Do none of these people know how to plug their nose without like covering their nose? Or they're like,
Notice Luke's hat.
Oh, he's got a snapback on.
changed. Also,
It's still a Connecticut Defenders hat, but this one's a snapback.
also,
Interesting.
Lorelai's the one who gave him the dark blue hat.
Oh yeah, let's just pick on Ohio.
If it was $2,500 in like 07, can you imagine how much it would be now at Duke?
Does Luke normally just voluntarily go to town meetings?
I
thought
think
that wasn't his.
he was just desperate to figure out why this town is like killing everybody.
Reeking.
He does go to a lot of town meetings, though.
It might have become a habit since he was with Lorelai. So he just keeps going unconsciously.
Her hair does look a lot better in this episode than yesterday.
yes. I'm, I love the curls for the waves, the curls. I really.
What is David doing with this button open button?
Put your skirt down.
Oh. Whoa.
Lorelai made her bad parenting fate.
I don't know about that outfit he got on with those unrolled cuffs and red sleeve under that.
Yeah, his character has all these sweater vests. Have you noticed that?
I mean, the sweater vest is fine. It's just, I don't know what this too big, the shirt that's way too big for him that is like rolled up at the sleeve.
His hair is what bothers me the most.
His hair is like the Red Queen.
Yes.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Off for the check.
Oh my gosh, it moves.
No, it always reminds me of that Looney Tunes red monster guy.
Really?
Such a fabulous haircut.
We'll have to ask him tomorrow if they styled his hair like that, or if that's just like naturally how it.
Like if he went around looking like that on purpose.
But if it's natural, I don't want to insult him.
That doesn't even sound like Logan, like on the phone. It sounded like they used somebody else to try and impersonate him.
No, that was totally Matt. Just, I don't know. That was totally.
John, later, can you tell us how they do those phone call things when you get to hear them through the phone? I was curious about that.
Say again?
When they have characters talking on the
Oh
phone,
my gosh.
you can hear the other character through the phone.
Michelle wearing
Curious
the
how they
mask.
do those.
Too soon.
Matt.
Michelle is so 2020.
Ain't that the truth?
That's great.
The way he's wearing it though is just too much for me.
We're all such experts on how people wear masks.
They do it in post-production, Chris. They do it in the sound room. So that's all.
Okay.
It's like somebody's just reading lines for the actor who's listening to the phone. So the actual actor, the person on the other line of the phone, is definitely not there on set. They don't need to be. That actor is called in to post-production when the episode's in editing, and they get that line there and they put it through whatever manipulated like sound audio software that they need to give it that sound.
Wow, that's pretty
Cool,
fascinating.
I thought about it when Lorelai was talking to her mom and dad on the phone, and you could hear them both in the background.
Those are some really big loaves of bread.
They look delicious, making me hungry.
I had pastrami for dinner the other night. It was so good with lots of pickles.
I love pastrami. My dad makes the best pastrami sandwiches.
I
love
love
them.
pickles so much. I love them so much that like, even though I understand that these are probably have been rotting in the sun and whatnot, I still have a hard time imagining how the smell would be horrible.
I hate pickles, so I'm sure that would kill.
Oh my gosh, pickles are the greatest. I just eat them straight out of the jar.
Yeah, and just the fact that like pickles are really like, I mean, they kind of go through a fermentation process. There's a little bit of like souring of them that actually makes them the delicious thing that they become. So it sounds like it would be actually a pretty awesome smell.
I found the best dill and sweet pickles at Costco.
Ooh.
The way Rory holds her phone is like interesting.
I find her awkward a lot.
I enjoyed that entire pickle. Oh, not over. I love that.
That was great.
I love the whole
good
thing
exchange.
more. And I would just say it could have had a few more pickles in there.
I'd like to acknowledge a pattern when Rory came over and was surprised with a poker game with no knowledge that there would be other people.
Yes.
Oh, hey, Bobby's a girl, a beautiful girl.
She's so obvious in her jealousy.
I know, yes.
I'm able
Does
to
anybody
BS a
else
little bit
think
more.
that those two guys are kind of like the gray flannel suit version of Colin and
That the one of those American reality series and showcase their talents. Didn't they start in the UK basically?
A lot of them do.
Yes.
I mean, I think that they all did, didn't they? I mean, like,
Well, definitely the X Factor did.
And
Yeah, I
Big
mean-
Brother.
I feel like they're all formats that we actually brought over here.
You're talking about reality shows?
Like the talent show, competition talent shows.
X
Oh, yeah,
Factor,
they think they
America's
did
Got
start.
Talent, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah, I never
All those
watched
started
those
over there.
shows.
The boys.
Yeah.
This looks like a really fake car drive, just like the way the car is moving for some reason.
by the way, of course, Christopher says for shizzle.
I love to say that and embarrass my daughter. She hates it.
Christopher just seems like the ultimate fashizzle type guy.
He's a dork.
What gives you that idea?
He's a rich white boy, remember?
Yeah, the fashizzliest.
But he used to be poor. He used to struggle for money, couldn't pay for a dictionary. Now he's rich.
Yeah, but that was fake poor.
comes
That
from
was like a
nice,
poor
yeah.
boy with rich parents who was trying to be poor.
That's true.
It just dawned on me. They're listening.
Look
to
at the
Skid
road,
Row
please. Oh my gosh.
And Gil. Gil is on the radio.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's
Is that?
awesome.
Oh, wait, really?
It's Skid Row. Yeah,
It's
Oh, that's hilarious.
Sebastian.
Jason just told me it was Skid Row as well.
Yes, their most famous song.
I know my hair bands. I'm ashamed to say.
I used to know the hair bands. Not now. I'm too old. Can't remember.
Oh my gosh, this man.
She didn't change her outfit to go to Friday night dinner.
She's been much more casual the last 2 seasons on Friday night.
But she usually changes into a dress or something.
Now, has it ever come up that Emily always wears 2-piece outfits? She never wears dress.
She once in a while. Oh yeah, I suppose there's skirts.
Even her wedding outfit was a suit.
Exactly. And the cotillion outfit was a 2-piece. I mean, she had a long ball skirt.
Yeah, that's her style. They definitely gave her a specific look. Oh, Bobby.
Rory's face is hilarious.
I feel like her face is realistic. Like, calm down, boys. It's just hairless.
Exactly.
They're all English, right? Those actors? Do we know?
I don't know if they're all. They
Apparently
if they really
not,
are. But
but they're pretending to be, but the actual actors are.
You don't think the actual actors are English?
I'm being told one is American for sure.
I'm looking up.
Yeah, get that Google going.
Logan is over here like, chill out, girl. It's fine.
Richard's hair looks longer.
That's the second time Franz Ferdinand has.
I was listening to some
mentioned.
Franz Ferdinand today.
Philip is from Sierra Leone.
I didn't like that. That eye, Christopher.
It looked like he was going to kill her.
I know. I did not like that look.
I don't like Christopher.
I would love to have someone grade my papers for me. That would be awesome.
Nick, it doesn't say where he's from, but he went to school in the.
Thank you.
Emily's in all her glory. This is
And-
all she ever wanted, was the two of them in their lives like this.
And Bobby is indeed from the UK.
Yeah, she seemed very authentic.
Lorelai playing tennis? I don't think so.
And we just saw how great racquetball was.
Exactly.
They look so happy.
Emily.
Carolyn, come on.
She's so annoying.
Oh my God, yes.
The derelicts haven't changed, I guess.
Look, John, she's supporting your own thoughts.
Thank you, Lorelai. Take a listen, Lily.
Just because he changed, I mean, I gotta like it.
That's the kind of shit he does that drives me crazy.
I feel you, Lily.
He still acts like,
I get him not wanting her to explain to him his own feeling.
Yeah, exactly. I love scenes where they just have cars driving around and people walking on the streets and a cab driving by. It's very complicated to do a scene like this.
That's all on a set.
It's all on the lot. That is all on the Warner Brothers lot. And those are all background talent. That's all cars that they just parked there. And it's very, very, very
taxi drove past.
Yeah, it's all really, that's a really complicated, very difficult shot to do. And they're walking and talking, so the camera has to, I mean, it's, people are all walking past. Everybody who walks past at a certain point, they all have a timed moment that they have to start walking. They weren't walking a second ago.
So does the director just tell them to go, or do they just know when the actors get to a certain point they're supposed to go?
It's that AD. It's the assistant director.
And then everything has to start over again if they have to redo the show.
Yep. Then they say back to one, and every single person goes back to their starting spot.
She's so jealous.
I really do like the evolution of Logan. That doesn't make me Team Logan, but I just love how his character is developed.
Yes, he's growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Seriously, Emily doesn't need anyone else in the room. She can just have the conversation by herself.
The 12th of Nevis.
Being so pleasant because they were being silent all evening.
I was gonna say that she loved when they were sulking and mad at each other. That was the most pleasant part of her evening.
She was having the most wonderful time by herself in her dream scenario.
Controlling everything, because that's what she.
I still love Emily. It's not going to change me. This is not going to shift me, Mary.
She's still a control.
I love her. I still love her.
Michelle's so excited.
I wouldn't dare to try, John. I just point out what I.
Mary, you don't point these things out to me. I love Emily.
Are you not in the room, Chris? I am pointing it out to you.
I pretend that I didn't hear you because you were talking.
Oh my goodness. This me closer, you might gonna mess. I get so strong. Pull me closer.
And there's
Come on, stop it.
They
You know you
drove
love
it
those.
too.
You know you love those pickles. You know you love those pickles.
Oh yeah, love it. All right.
You know you love those pickles, people.
That was a better episode than I remember because I didn't remember it first. So yeah,
That
John,
was.
you really will like
I
this
thought that
episode.
was a delightful episode. I liked it a lot. Okay, we're gonna bring some folks up here on the couch and find out if they liked it a lot. We are open now. Come on up.
I have to say, John, that I like season 7. I don't know why everybody hates it so much.
Same
I never
here.
understood that.
Same.
Well, I'm not. I'm still gonna say I think those first 2 episodes are like, what is going on? And since those 2 episodes, it has felt basically like the same show. Those first 2 episodes are just straight up weird.
Well,
I
they
think
had to
they're
find the
supposed to be
groove.
though.
Maybe.
I think they're supposed to be weird because we're supposed to feel that kind of awkwardness and strangeness and the sadness that Lorelai's feeling, and it's not moving as quickly, and she's going through all that. I kind of feel like maybe that. Hey, do you want me to watch people to raise their hands? Because if you do,
Yes, please. Yes,
but
please.
I don't have the moderator thing right now, so I can't.
Oh,
see
let me
them.
give it to you. Oh, and I should have given that to you at the beginning. You were at risk of being bumped out of the room there.
It's
now
okay.
you're good. You're good. You're good now. So yeah, help out anybody who would like to join us up here on the couch to discuss this episode. Please raise your hand. Nobody is raising it, which means if you are raising it, we're not seeing it. So you got to unraise it and raise it again. There we go.
I went down to
too.
What's up?
I said I'm with you on the pickles.
Oh my gosh, we already have Aaron doing what Aaron does best.
A jar of pickles.
A jar of pickles.
That
does not disappoint.
That's
not disappoint.
That's a pretty big deal.
Bottom.
Yeah. I was curious what T's picture was, and I went and I looked at it, and I am scared. Oh, ay. The creature in her profile picture. I'm very scared.
Where is T's picture? I'm trying to find it.
Help.
Yeah, where is T?
Oh, it's like blue and purple. What is it? It's like a starfish, right?
Oh yes.
tormenting
I'm
me.
like scared. I'm starfish to creep and gross me out all the time.
You're scared of starfish.
It's a baby star. It's a baby starfish, but it does look like a parasite of some kind.
Little bit.
Nasty.
After watching the Suicide Squad, it's a terrifying sight.
I had it before, man. It really made Suicide Squad.
All right, let's chittery chat about this episode. First of all, I'll say this episode sets up next episode, or not next episode, 2 episodes from now, which I have been wondering how we get there without spoilers. But I did sort of see it early on in the episode. I mean, it's another episode where we got a lot to talk about in regards to Chris and Lorelai. I mean,
Yeah. First off, though, John, did you spot the recycled storyline?
yeah, it was the stink. It was like the stink, which is similar to the egg stink, where the eggs are
That's exactly. And I just feel like this a few times in season 7. Off the top of my head, I can't remember right now, but as they come up, I'd like to point them out. It's just, I feel like they maybe tried to like fall back on things that worked in the past or something. It's still, it's different. It's a cute story, but it's like, oh, they did that already.
It was definitely reminiscent. Like as soon as everybody's like covering their noses, it was like, oh yeah, I remember when they did that once before.
I have to say, I'm not going to say what was foreshadowing, but there was very much of a foreshadowing that I had never noticed before in tonight's episode.
Oh, foreshadowing. Can you, without you don't want to spoil us because it would spoil us.
Correct. I'm not gonna say, but everybody else who actually has like seen season 7 probably knows what I'm talking about.
Except
But-
Chris, because she doesn't remember beyond this episode. Right?
Yeah, true. Except for Chris.
I was gonna say I have no idea.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm
Well,
forgetting
can you-
at the moment myself.
You'll
Can you
know.
tell what it? Can you tell us what character it was related to?
I really forget at the moment. I don't know. I don't think I probably can.
Send me a
Okay.
Does it
message,
have something
Charlie.
to do
and
with something that Suki said?
Yeah,
'Cause that
send
was
me
the
a
only thing I
message,
picked up.
Charlie. I want to know. Okay, so who, Steph, who, and what?
Oh, Chris said, send me a message so I can see if it's a spoilery kind of thing.
Emma did as well. Okay, so Emma, Steph.
Yeah, I'm kind of totally in the dark. So yeah. So tell me. I think
Yeah,
I've
there's-
watched this 50 times and I have no idea. But then that's like me in Clues, right? I can't ever get the clues, so I can't get a clue now.
So yeah, so there was a lot of Lorelai and Chris in this episode, John. That's a good place to start.
I like how
I mean,
Lorelai thanked Chris because it only took him 2 days to tell her about everything that was going on with his kid and his ex-wife and stuff. And she was like, no, you told me after 2 days, you know, because it wasn't 2 months like Luke's.
Right. And
Right.
also how easy it was, how much easier it was for her to just express her feelings about the whole matter. And although his initial instinct was resistance, that he then, allowed to simmer a bit on it, was like, you're right. But didn't seem to 100% compromise, or he didn't seem to 100% go in her direction. There was some compromise because he's still going to take Gigi to Paris, when what she was originally asking him was really like, I don't think that she should go at all. So it seems like it's like, I don't know, it seemed fair, seemed balanced.
Yeah. Hey,
I agree.
did you notice, I thought of this while you were talking, I'm sorry. This whole episode seems to take place in approximately 24 hours time. And I can't remember, are there other episodes like that?
I feel like
26 hours, actually.
26 hours. Okay, so Logan's there.
Or a little more than that, because he doesn't show up and say that he's got 26 hours. He doesn't show up until a little bit of the episode has passed, but like we already had the like town hall and the smell and all of that, right? Yeah, we have.
Yeah, I suppose. Well,
but it's pretty.
yeah.
I think a little bit more than 24.
No, he showed up. He showed
No, that
up
was the
right
same
at
day
the
because
credits.
Lorelai had the same outfit on the whole day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
showed
so-
up at right after they took Paulinka. It was him being there at night.
Just it occurred to me, I don't know, have we ever had an episode that really only took place in basically one day's time before?
I feel like there
Well,
have been
the beginning of season 7, right? I mean,
Oh,
doesn't
yeah,
everything
the first
in the first episode take place in one day?
Okay, I have a great memory.
I think it's
Thanks,
like
guys.
2 days actually, because they show the 2 nights where she where she wakes up and then I think it's 2 days, that one, but maybe the Renaissance wedding episode in season 4, that might just be that day.
Yeah, it just seems like normally we see lots of dresses and lots of costume changing, and this episode didn't really have that. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt our Chris and Lorelai talk. It just came into my brain.
No, it's
I
part
mean-
it's part of the larger discussion. I think it works.
Last night's basically took place in like a 24, 48 hour period. For the most part, I feel like. I could be wrong, but I feel like.
What about the episode where she's opening the inn and everybody comes to stay at the inn? And that like kind of like that
yeah.
night into the next morning?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I comment on Chris and Lorelai?
Let's hear it.
Okay. So I mean, I'm not anti-Chris. He's okay. I just whatever. But I thought it was interesting. Like I like that Lorelai, talked to Suki and said that she had Luke in her head and then decided to tell him, what her concerns were. And yeah, he did pout about it a little bit, but then he came around and kind of listened to her, which is great. That's how it should work, in a relationship. But also, I kind of also feel like that goes back to our point before where he just kind of doesn't really have a spine and kind of does what Lorelai wants him to do. Because even though I don't agree with the way Luke handled the situation with April, with not telling Lorelai for 2 months and then not letting her be a part of his life, he handled that the way he felt comfortable. And, that was it. I don't really agree with that, but that was the way he needed to deal with that situation. And he didn't let her kind of force him into doing it a different way. That was just the way he processed that. And the way Chris did sit on it, and I do agree with, Lorelai, but I kind of felt that it just went back to him just kind of bending to her will. And it made me wonder if he would just do that throughout their whole relationship, or if they ended up being together for a couple of years and if she would get bored with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think that he probably would. He strikes me as somebody who, ultimately, like, and the further into their relationship that they would get, the more Lorelai would just completely dominate every single tiny aspect of their entire relationship until all he is just silently following. I do think that is definitely Christopher. And that's I think probably why he's not right for her. But I will push back on the fact that he didn't fully bend to her will, because she was trying to convince him that she should not take Gigi or he should not have Gigi go to Paris at all. That Sherry should not have that, and that Gigi should stay. And ultimately what he chose was something kind of in the middle, which was, no, we're going to I'm still taking Gigi out there. She deserves to get to know her mother and whatnot. But, maybe it shouldn't just be as simple as, I just send her on a plane with a nanny. I should go too. I should check out the place, decide whether or not it is a great place for her to go and stay, and whether that whole situation is there. So to me, it didn't really feel like it was a 100% bending to Lorelai's will. In the end, it felt like he had kind of taken a pretty good stance on, like, this is the line I won't cross, but I'll go all the way up to it. And he did it in a pretty smooth way, right? Like, I'm going to go to Paris, and by the way, I want you to come with me. Come with me as well, right? Like, I thought that it was really handled well by him, even though I do agree that, like, he does strike me as somebody who over time, because partly him, but also partly Lorelai, that their relationship would devolve into he has no say and she's just dominates it, which, I don't think is very healthy. But at least right now, it seemed to me like he did a pretty decent job with that.
But I
thought
it was just because she didn't know, like, just going with your nanny is, I didn't think it was because she didn't want her to go at all. I thought it was just,
she said, at first she's like, I don't think she should go. Like, I don't think that she should go. Like, it at least I interpreted it as, like, like, that he was sort of like, she needs to get to know her mother, and this is really hard for me. And it sounded to me like he was saying, I want her to be in Sherry's life, and Lorelai was like, I don't really think that that's a smart idea. This Sherry has not done anything at all to have, to show that she could be a good mother to her, and that this would be a good idea. And then she said, she sort of said something that was more like, but at the very least, don't put her onto a plane with just like some 25-year-old nanny. So it seemed like there were two things that she was talking about. That she was talking about, like, don't have her go off with, don't send her to live with Sherry. But, like, if you're gonna, at the very least, don't put her on a plane with just some, with some nanny. Maybe I missed that, but that is how that was the tone that I got from that.
See, I just thought it was the action of putting her on the plane. I thought she assumed he was just going to stick her on the plane and send her over.
Yeah, I mean that was part of it, but I think that the conversation in the car was more. It was like it was sort of all encompassing. Like I don't want to like butt in here about the way that you should be raising your daughter, but I get it. Like because they even referenced the letter, right? Like you read the letter, you know. The letter doesn't have anything to do with like putting her on a plane alone. That letter had to do with like I want Gigi in my life. I want to be a mother to her. And so if he's saying that to Lorelai, then it seems like he's saying like I think that that's a good idea, and Lorelai's like I don't think it's a good idea.
I think Lorelai is just thinking of what she would do if it was her trying to make these decisions and not considering it from his side. And by the way, Tanya was trying to also chime in. Tanya and Heather, just
Tanya.
Oh, yeah, it's complicated, like you guys were saying, and also when we were talking about how Christopher is like, okay, I'm gonna do what she wants to do. He got the girl finally. He has his girl. He's not gonna do something like make her lose her. I see it that way too. But yeah.
You think he doesn't want to upset Lorelai?
Probably. Maybe.
I mean, it's interesting. This is the first time that I've really thought about that. What you brought up, Hunter, this idea that really one of the big problems with this relationship is that the power dynamic in the relationship is so out of whack that he is definitely someone who will always just concede ultimately, and that she will usually with him find that voice, and that might over time start to get more and more domineering, and that will devolve into a relationship that is just a mess that doesn't work. I had never really thought of it in those terms, but I think that that's a good argument for why these characters are not right for each other. The flip side, of course, is this other thing that she has with Luke, where they both do stand their ground on issues. But if they don't find a way to actually work through that, if they don't find a way to compromise with one another and to see through what the other person's wall and whatnot, then they'll never be able to actually come together as a couple.
I think that also Lorelai is feeling that, like her conversation with Suki is that she's feeling like, well, wait a minute, this isn't Luke. With Chris, I actually can kind of like, she doesn't say it this way, but push him around, like dominate him. And I think that part of her attraction to him in this relationship right now, because you keep seeing that little bit of hesitancy. I think yesterday you made a comment about one of the things on the date that she wasn't like, she's liking the idea of this. She's liking that she can bring him to Friday night dinner and not have him be told what he's drinking is nitwit juice. She likes the idea that, everything's copacetic with Christopher, and she can actually even tell him what to do. And I feel like it's a breath of fresh air for her, but it doesn't necessarily mean she's in it. She's just in the idea of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
I agree.
I was thinking that Lorelai was like, her mother instincts were coming out and being like, well, this woman hasn't been around for 3 years. She doesn't deserve to be in this kid's life. And you can't send her with some nanny. You have to at least take her yourself. It never, what were you saying, John, about you felt it was her dominating Christopher? That's not how I ever.
Well, I don't think that she was necessarily dominating Christopher here, but the point I think that the point I'm making with dominating, which sort of comes from the point that Hunter was making, is that Lorelai's freedom to speak her mind with Chris, combined with Chris's tendency to sort of back down and
to
not
be
really
washy.
Yeah, that will eventually evolve. That would likely eventually evolve to a relationship that is so completely out of whack in terms of power balance that it just doesn't work. You have somebody who's just completely like being walked all over, and the other one who's just almost drunk on that power, on that ability to sort of get whatever they want whenever they want. So, and I don't think that's what's happening now. I'm just saying we're recognizing that that's one of the things that makes this relationship not totally work, and that over time that can actually become a problem. But I do think that what was going on there in the car was two things that were related to one another. Was the idea of does Sherry deserve to have Gigi in her life? Is that a good thing for Gigi? And should you be putting Gigi on a plane with just some 25-year-old nanny to take her out there? I think that those two things were different but slightly related. And he ultimately got to the point where he was willing to compromise on no nanny, no putting on a plane alone. I'm going out there. You're right. I should probably see what life this would be for Gigi, being out there with her mother. But he didn't go so far as to say, you're right. Gigi should like Sherry should not have Gigi in her life. And I do think that was part of the conversation because of the letter, because he kept asking Lorelai to, you read the letter. I really think I believe her now. I really believe she's ready for this. So it was really about that. At least one part of it was about that. And in the end, he has stuck to his belief that maybe Sherry is ready, and he's going to find out. He doesn't know for sure. So they're going to go out together and they're going to find that out. And I thought that was cool.
This group is really quiet when it comes to Christopher.
I wonder why. Lily, can you share why that might be?
I was just doing stuff and getting all my things back upstairs, but not. I guess I just don't really have a lot to say. I figure I've said everything. Throughout
I'm just messing with you. I know that you're not. I know that you're not the biggest Christopher fan.
I'm not really a big David Sutcliffe fan either, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I get it.
What does Mary think? We haven't heard from Mary, and
Mary
has thoughts.
I'm sure Mary is waiting for us to discuss Emily.
I honestly have no feelings whatsoever one way or another about Christopher. I agree with both sides. I've been listening to you guys, and I just agree a lot with what's been said. So nothing.
Switzerland, Mary.
Do you have any thoughts on the episode, or do you have any direction that you would like to, because we can move on. I think that the Christopher discussion, we've spent so much time on it, and I know that there's going to be more Christopher, so we'll probably have more to discuss. I'm sure he'll do something absolutely disgusting, and that's when everyone will just come out to play. But tonight he seems to have been.
I really like Chris, and I like the last scene of the three of them in the car together as a family.
That's a great scene.
Really
I loved that moment. I absolutely loved that moment.
And here was Chris,
that
asserting himself by singing along to that song.
Say again.
Chris was here was Chris singing along to come a little bit closer, and Rory and Lorelai were looking at him like, ew. And then of course they drive into the pickle smell, and then it was more ew. So
I don't know. I thought it was kind of cute.
Did anyone think Rory's face, she smiled initially, and then there was this brief little moment, maybe I'm being hypersensitive, a little doubt, but then a smile again at the end.
I'm nodding.
Are you sure that are you totally sure that it's not, that the doubt was, is that pickle that I'm smelling?
It was, she was looking at them being happy, and she was smiling because it was satisfying to her in the moment. But then there was just brief little look that came over her face, like, whoa, I don't know. And then a smile at the end. And then the yucky pickle.
I'd have to watch it again to say for sure whether I saw that. I don't remember it, but I do. It was a moment, that moment with Rory, I thought was nice. I mean, I think Rory has wanted this for a long time. She just wanted to make sure that it was that it was okay, that it didn't, that her mom didn't get hurt and she didn't get hurt. And it seems like a moment, at least one small moment where she can enjoy the idea of her family being together.
All right, back to Mary. She's about to tell us something that she liked or didn't like about Chris right towards the end, I think. I want to hear it, Mary.
I liked how they were able to get Lorelai over her Luke phobia through Chris. That she was able to realize that what she wanted with Luke, and this goes right back to him telling her that, you know, he's here and he's not going anywhere. And I said, then these are the words she wants, but from a different man. And the relationship that she has with Chris over Gigi is the relationship she wanted with Luke and April, but didn't get it. So it's just this like parallel of like, she's getting the relationship she wants, but she's getting it with the different man than she wanted it with.
So she's
the wrong man.
So she's kind of living what
the
she
wrong man,
was hoping for.
I actually purposely picked the word different instead of wrong.
You're so Switzerland,
Yes.
Mary.
Wrong man.
I love
Really? That's the problem with Christopher is we've been following this for 7 seasons and we all know who it should be. Get there already.
But she is getting what she wants. This is my point.
Right.
is
No,
that,
I get that. I get that.
Her needs are being fulfilled. They're
which
being
is-
fulfilled by someone we, maybe as an audience, or she in her heart of hearts didn't think would be the person fulfilling them. But why should she not be satisfied by having her needs fulfilled, both emotionally and like, you know, in whatever she's desiring, she's actually getting.
So then the ultimate question will be, is that enough to satisfy someone long term?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know who is getting what they want, Mary? Emily and Richard are getting what they
Oh
want.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
They were completely
Oh, that
oblivious
makes it
to the
even
fact
worse.
that there was a fight happening between Christopher and Lorelai at the dinner table. They were just so happy that their dreams have come true that they've been waiting for 22 years.
But it goes to show you that the storyline for them of Lorelai and Christopher is window dressing. They don't need it to have any depth. They don't need their relationship to actually be a happy relationship and a real relationship, as long as they can look out and say, look, my daughter and the father of her daughter are together. That's all they needed to look.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I knew you would tell it to me.
And I think, I think it goes to show too, why there's such a rift with Emily and Lorelai and why their relationship has always been kind of strained. Because, right from the beginning, Emily could see how much Luke and Lorelai liked each other, how she was saying, oh, you like each other. She could see that they were happy together. And why couldn't she be happy for her daughter, just to be happy in that relationship? Why couldn't she have, been more welcoming? And it's kind of sad that she can't tell that her daughter is not happy really now, but she's happy because it's what she wanted her to do. And so I think that's been like a theme throughout the whole show, is like, even that's why Lorelai had to leave, because she couldn't be independent. She couldn't do what she wanted, and she couldn't make her parents happy and herself happy.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't like Emily.
Exactly right.
Sorry, but still like Emily.
See,
No.
I understand Emily, and because I understand her, I don't mind her.
She's the one who loves
Interesting.
Emily's the type of person I would never get along with, and
I always
have
thought you
none of the
loathed.
traits.
I thought you loathed Emily, Mary. Have I? We've been watching
No.
for 4 months, and I've just completely got you wrong.
No, I don't loathe her, but I think it's important to understand that Emily lives in Emily world, and anyone who tries to deny that doesn't understand her. You have to understand her to really get what her motivations and how she goes about stuff. But I'm the type of person who believes that if you know what you're getting into, you can get along with anybody and you can like any.
I don't agree with that 100%.
Harvest.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's fair.
Remember to harvest.
I actually agree with Mary on that point. If you know what you're getting into, you can, I don't think necessarily get along with or like everybody, but you can, it makes it easier to tolerate people. It's a lot.
You can tolerate them, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot worse if you don't know what to expect from somebody and then they just turn out not to be who you thought they were, than if you kind of already know that they're not the greatest. It makes it easier to put up with their crap because you're like, oh, well, that is just who they are.
We got to remember, though, that despite the fact that Lorelai has issues with her mother, she still loves her mother and her father. And it's really clear in some of these situations they've been in that how much she actually does love her parents, even though she kind of doesn't at the same time. And that's one of the things that I do kind of. Emily also loves her daughter, even though she doesn't always do the right thing. And so there's things about, it's so hard to explain sometimes, but I like Emily. You guys are not going to change my mind. You only have so many episodes left to do it, though.
I love Emily. And I think that actually Emily, you know, I get that Emily's approach to a lot of it is
wrong.
I mean, yeah, it's too brash and it's too controlling. But I think that Emily's her reasoning always makes sense to me. And I think that Emily's biggest problem, especially with Lorelai, is that a lot of Lorelai's decision making comes from the gut. It comes from her feelings and that she doesn't think through. And I think that Emily does, and I respect that. I realize that she is, and when she's at her worst, that this aspect of Emily might cloud sort of her abilities to think reasonably, that she needs to control things and has that kind of power need, but so does Lorelai. But I think that like her ability to sort of detach herself from her emotions is something that I kind of respect a bit.
It's how she protects herself. And I also think that in the end, before Lorelai broke up with Luke, towards the end of season 6, I think Emily truly was trying to be happy for Lorelai, and that she wanted Lorelai to be happy, and that she had put aside her feelings about thinking that she should be with Chris and accepted that she was going to be with Luke at that point. And I think that she really was.
I was going to say,
Lorelai when they
I don't know
broke up.
about happy Chris.
Well,
I don't know
in her way. I think in her way,
I think she accepted it.
Right, she accepted it and wanted Lorelai to be happy by accepting that she was going to be with Luke. It didn't make Emily happy, but she wanted to be happy for Lorelai, I think.
I'm just going to twist it a little bit. I'm going to say that Emily accepted that she's not going to be able to change Lorelai's mind. Not necessarily that she wanted Lorelai to be happy with Luke, as much as she just like, okay, if this is happening, we're going to make the best. I didn't say she wanted her to be happy with Luke. She wanted Lorelai to be happy, and that was being with Luke, I guess is how I probably should have said it. But I think that Emily does want what is best for Lorelai. She just doesn't always go about it.
But I think that that what Emily thinks is best for Lorelai, I think that
it's not
especially
always
now
best. Yeah.
Well, I think it's what Emily believes is best based on her own viewpoint, her own world view of what is best.
Yes.
I think that well, let's just take this whole idea that Christopher is wishy-washy and that Lorelai is
strong.
She's strong-willed, wants what she wants and goes after it, and because of that has the tendency to just get what she wants from Christopher and take what she wants from Christopher when she can. And in Emily's worldview, that's okay. That's totally fine. That should be good.
And not just that, but Christopher comes from money, and she doesn't really know where Luke comes from or what he has.
Yeah.
So she assumes that he's not good enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously the class thing is really big, but like just this idea that Emily doesn't see any problem at all with a relationship in which Lorelai would just absolutely walk all over the man that she's with. She herself knows that Christopher is like weak. She actually said it to him, "You are a weak man," you know, but yeah, and yet she has no problem with the idea of a weak man being in a relationship because she doesn't value that as important. She doesn't believe that like that is an important, like it doesn't matter if he's super weak and she's super strong. That actually is fine. That's a totally acceptable form of a relationship.
Well, do you think that's a testament to what Emily thinks about Lorelai's personality? She's like, Lorelai is strong. She doesn't need a strong man to back her up. She's her own person. She just needs this particular type of man. So therefore Chris is fine because Lorelai is independent and strong enough. She doesn't need like somebody like a Richard in her life that's going to be like this domineering force. Lorelai's the domineering force.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a good way to put it.
Really is.
I think that's a good point. I think she does. I think that she sees, I mean, almost like, you know, to a fault, it's definitely an aspect that has been, you know, been a hindrance to their relationship, but she sees that her daughter is just cannot be bent, you know, that like she does not have the ability to get her daughter to do what she wants her daughter to do. So she understands that her daughter is as strong-willed as she is. So that makes sense that she would be like, not only does she not need somebody like that, she may not thrive with somebody like that.
Yeah. Well, and she also, I think, and you're probably going to tell me I'm wrong, Mary, I'm sure, but I think Emily, in her own way, is proud of Lorelai in her success of running her own inn and being a successful person, because they've always thought that Lorelai was smart and wasted her smarts by not going to college and all those kinds of things, whatever in the past. But I think that what you were saying, John, that's true. She knows she's strong and smart, and she doesn't really need any man when you really think about it when it comes to that part of her life. She thrives on her own. But yeah. Exactly.
And so it's like, but you know, she doesn't need somebody that is going to help her, you know, become, you know, like that is going to be like a Richard, that, you know, she is her own woman. She can become successful on her own, but she does have strong feelings about how class is an extremely important part of what she does think Lorelai. It's how you look to other people, and she wants Lorelai to look like a exactly successful woman to somebody else. Exactly. And so this guy actually by that definition fits the bill perfectly for Emily. He's not going to get in the way of Lorelai's own will and her own strength. You know, he's going to do exactly what she wants and when she wants it. And he will also serve this other role. He will serve the role of the appearance that you need, you know, in order to be accepted within society, which is also another component of success. Yes, he's got the family name by Emily's, you know, but again, this is based on what Emily believes is important. You know, I don't think we're going to win them over with this argument, though, John. I don't think we're selling Emily to these guys yet. No, I mean, certainly not that argument. Doesn't sound like we're selling Emily at all.
I don't hate. Here's my question for you guys. Why do you feel like you need to sell Emily? Like, why? I don't need to sell. I don't need to sell Emily. I like Emily. I'm into Emily. I don't need to sell Emily.
I don't really need to sell her either. I just think I'm listening to how we're talking about her, and you guys are probably like, this is why we don't like her.
I love Emily. She's my favorite Gilmore, honestly. I love her. So
I'll just remind you all that I said that Emily is my mother, and I adore my mother. Like, let's not.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you said that, because you have said that about your mother, and I have a couple of times wonder, like, does Mary have a bad relationship with her mother?
No, I had a Lorelai Emily relationship for a while, and I grew up, and she calmed down, and we kind of met in the middle. But like, you know, it's okay to to see your family and these characters and have those conversations.
Yeah.
So I have a question for those who like Emily, John and Chris. So do you guys ever feel bad for Lorelai? Like, do you ever feel like that piece of like the mothering piece is like missing? Do you guys ever feel, I don't know, can you feel both? Can you like Emily and also feel bad for Lorelai?
Yep.
I don't know.
I have a balance with it. It goes back and forth. It's kind of a seesaw.
But I also
the thing is that I'm not complete
for Emily because Lorelai shuts her out so much.
I was going to say, like, the reason why that's a hard one for me to answer is because I actually think that as much as Emily is not there as that classic mother figure that a child would need, like, I also think that Lorelai is someone who sort of instinctively rejects that anyway.
She pushes her away.
And so because of it, there are these like almost like these like magnets that like both of them contribute to why they push one another away. I
have to interrupt you, John, because this is making me crazy. Emily is so mean to Lorelai all the time. Don't you see that?
Yeah, but don't you also? But
don't you see that?
Don't you also hear? Don't you hear all of the snarky hyperbole that Lorelai's also dishing out on her mother constantly? She's constantly. I mean, saying things like that place, referring to her house as hell,
as soon as Lorelai is nice and lets her mother in, Emily just puts her down, but they do it. You see it in her face all the time. Lorelai's always like heartbroken that her mother is talking down to her and so nasty.
Well, I think
have you never seen Emily heartbroken though? When
we have seen, occasionally.
We do. The thing is that well, I mean, but we don't know if she's feeling heartbroken. Emily reacts in a different way. She keeps up a very hard wall. We can't be absolutely certain that like when she hears Lorelai say something that is sort of derogatory towards that whole world that she's spent her whole life building up, that there isn't a part of her that's really sad inside, she puts up a wall. So I always assume that that's just the way that Emily sort of is. It doesn't necessarily tell us how she feels inside. And I would say no. I think that they do it to each other just as much. I think that Emily has a really nasty way of talking to Lorelai, and Lorelai has just as nasty of a way of speaking about, often behind her mother's back, but she can hear it, or she can sense it for sure. I think that they do it to each other, and I actually think that Lorelai and Emily are very, very similar in that way. I think that Lorelai got her biting wit from her mother. Her mother, they both, like, when they make fun of something, they really they come up with like the absolute most hilariously awesome, biting critique of that thing that they're attacking. And sometimes it's each other. Often we see Emily do it in front of Lorelai, which might be a slight difference, but we very often see Lorelai doing it behind her mother's back, or right before they're walking in the door. And I would argue that Emily can feel that. Emily can sense it just as much.
I feel like
Hunter is flashing. Hunter's been
Hunter, let's hear it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree with you, John. I do feel like they both do. They both. Lorelai definitely gets that from Emily, but like you said, Lorelai does that before she goes in the house, or she does it behind Emily's back, which is a big difference. And also, even though Lorelai can dish it out to Emily a lot, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of a trauma response to being brought up in that house. She refers to it as hell, and she ran away with a child that's 15 years old. So any response that she had to Emily is just a deep-seated, not regret, but was it
response?
Response to how she grew up in that house. And so it's a little bit different. Emily is the mother, and this is how Lorelai has responded to her upbringing.
It's a trauma response.
We have Amanda that's been flashing.
Amanda, let's hear.
I agree with Hunter on a lot of her points. But also we don't see all of the hurt that is created before we meet these women on screen. So we know that Emily is coming from a place of hurt because her daughter ran away. We don't see any of the things that Lorelai may be hurt about because something obviously happened to push her away. And I think that both of them are coming from a place of hurt. But also to speak on John's point about Lorelai saying snide things, you know, when Emily isn't around. We don't know if Emily does that. We don't see as much of her world as we do Lorelai's, because she's just not, you know, we're not focused on her. She's not one of the main people that is showcased in the show. So for all we know, she does the exact same thing when it comes to Lorelai. Now, I'm not saying I hate Emily, because I don't. I think she has good qualities, and I feel really bad for her because speaking as somebody, and like, I know it's not the same thing, but speaking as somebody who has to give children up a lot, and, you know, because I'm a foster parent, so I see children have to leave a lot, and it's really heartbreaking and it's really sad. And so for Emily to basically have her granddaughter that she got to know for a year of her life taken away from her, those are wounds that are really, really difficult to heal. I signed up for, you know, the pain that I undergo. She did not. And so in that regard, I really feel for her. I don't necessarily think that the way either of them handle their hurt and pain is, you know, the best, but I do understand where she comes from. It's not in that aspect, and why it's so hard for her to get over it.
I was gonna say, and to people saying to the point that Lorelai talks about growing up in that house being hell, Lorelai's perspective of one could be one thing, and Emily's could be another. For all we know, and we don't really know because we only saw that one episode.
That's what I was gonna. That's actually the point I was going to make, because I think that Amanda, you made a really good point. We don't know. We are absolutely assuming when we say the hurt that Lorelai went through as a kid. I don't know. Like, I really don't know what hurt she's talking about. I definitely do see a very snarky mother who definitely needs to control situations, but I don't really know what it was that had Lorelai driven to the point of leaving, you know, of just like abandoning her entire family. That's a huge step. And I haven't really seen anything from Emily during the series that has there's nothing that feels particularly mommy dearest about Emily, like is probably the best way for me to say it, or very Sybil about Emily, if anybody knows Sybil.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of going along with this idea that like there's like intense trauma from Lorelai's childhood. That's one. The other thing that I would say is that it's true that, you know, a lot of the harshest things that we hear from Lorelai about Emily are sort of behind closed doors. You know, they're behind her back. But there's a lot of like disregarding that happens at those dinners. There's a lot of Lorelai just like making light of anything that comes, like just making a joke out of every single thing that her mother says. That is also kind of a little disrespectful. And I could see how that over a long period of time could have Emily feeling very hurt. Like you don't really think of me in any way that is like you don't take me seriously in the absolute slightest.
There's also the fact that she keeps things from her mother, and sometimes her mother finds out about them from other people when she should have probably found out about it from Lorelai herself.
And that's really hurtful to Emily because she knows that Lorelai is keeping her separated from her Stars Hollow world. And Lorelai has said that flat out. And that whole scene in the airplane when her mom was going to go do the timeshare airplane, that speech she gives to Lorelai just shows you how much she's aware of what she thinks Lorelai thinks about her and how it makes her feel. I mean, she flat out said it, that you don't want me in your life, and or whatever she said at the end. And Lorelai had to say that it wasn't true. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that Emily doesn't let out. And she just, like you said, John, keeps behind a wall and she acts tough. That's how she protects herself. But
yeah, I mean, and I do think that like a lot of that stuff that happens at the dinner table where Lorelai is just like her and Rory have these like little inside jokes that are, you know, just kind of sort of soft, making fun of the situation, the world, all that stuff. I see that as like, you know, chipping away at, you know, sort of equally harmful to the relationship that you want to build with if you want to build with your mother. And if you do that, it's, you know, I would imagine how Emily would be like, well, clearly doesn't want to have any relationship with me. Just like every time she's here, it's just, she's looking for an opportunity to just chip away at me.
She makes fun of her lifestyle.
And because Emily is not that type of person, she's much blunter. She's going to then hit back in her own way, and like in like a, you know, much bigger, more insulting,
direct to your face kind of way
language. But you know, I mean, going back to this whole idea of like the trauma again, I just don't like. I have to just sort of go on this, go on the word of one person, you know, like I have to just go, because didn't get to see anything about, you know, that suggested trauma. I saw one episode that was in the past and it didn't look particularly traumatic.
Emotional,
you know, I mean, at least not like,
it doesn't have to be mommy dear.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, but I mean, it is a bit like, I mean, she ran away from home. She kept her granddaughter from her parents. I mean, that's like all, that's big, you know, that's a lot, you know? And so I kind of like, I need to understand what that trauma was.
I will
a little
say,
bit better than.
Yeah. I think Mary's been trying to say something. I've been scrolling up and down looking for flashers, and I think I just finally saw Mary. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was just going to say, we're not going to win this argument because it's a chicken and an egg thing.
Yeah, that's
Lorelai
true.
The way that she is because Emily, or is Emily the way she is because of Lorelai?
Totally.
Yeah.
And
it's just, we're going to go round and round. But I will defend Emily in one thing and say that when Lorelai ran away, when Lorelai got pregnant, she was a teenager. And it is very typical for teenagers to overinflate the way that their parents hate them and they don't agree and over minor things. So in Lorelai's eyes, they may have been major things, but they actually were minor things that had she matured a little bit and reflected on, would have realized that, you know, they weren't as big as they were.
And that's the only point. And that's really the only point that I'm making about the trauma. You know, it's not to say that they probably didn't have things that you know, aspects of her life that were really hard, you know, and that world seems very weird, you know, so I'm guessing that there's lots of aspects of that world that are really like awful. But I do, you know, like trauma, for me, trauma is like, and the way that this trauma was sort of handled, I just need to understand it a little bit more than just being told that there was trauma there.
Well, I think it's a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead, Andrea.
Hunter. Did you want to respond?
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, I agree. I totally agree with Mary that it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, because I was gonna say before, Mandy brought up the fact that Emily had, you know, probably developed a whole year relationship with Rory before she was ripped away from her, and never once this entire time did I even take that into consideration, that she was in Rory's life for an entire year before Lorelai left. That's awful.
Yeah.
And they loved their granddaughter. You could tell in that flashback episode, they loved her.
Yeah.
But Emily was trying to control everything.
Andrea, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, to the point of the trauma you're talking about, and I think I think it's a good point to consider how Lorelai maybe exaggerated the trauma, because she does mention it in the third episode of the entire series. You probably don't remember this, John, but I have it memorized. So she makes a comment
Be surprised.
when they're at that wedding at the end of that episode. It's the twins' wedding, twins marrying twins, and there's a little girl. She just made up with a fight with Rory, and there's a little girl that's in a dress, and she says to Rory something like, "I had so many dresses like that when I was a kid," and you can see that the little girl is all begrudgingly, and the mother's yelling at her, "Sit up straight," and you could just see that this is obviously a flashback, even though it's not a flashback, of Emily and a little younger Lorelai. And even that cotillion episode, which was only a few episodes ago, when she makes comments and she waves to that little girl wearing the Converse sneakers underneath, the little rebel one that obviously is supposed to represent the little Lorelai. This is what traumatized Lorelai, having to dress up when she didn't want to. They tell us this basically, and having to just be in a stuffy world when she didn't want to be in a stuffy world. So I think you're right about Lorelai's like trauma being like something that Emily never would have thought she was traumatizing her child. This is just the way they live their life, and Lorelai just wanted none of it. So to a point, I feel like Lorelai just kind of over exaggerated her fierce independence from that.
Yeah, and I think that this is also me agreeing with this idea of the chicken and the egg, is that I think ultimately that's just the problem, is that they both are kind of incompatible in this way. They just are, like Lorelai was born that way, to be that type of person, to reject that world. And Emily was born that way, to sort of to embrace it and to want her family to sort of live within that structure. And so because of it, they just don't work. There are plenty, I'm imagining, of mother-daughters in that world that do work that way. They don't. And so it's hard to fault either of them in that way.
It's interesting that Rory turned out to be a people pleaser when Lorelai was completely the opposite.
Hey, Jules.
That is interesting.
Hey. I just wanted to add, I will agree with a lot of what you, all of you actually, honestly, but I also think Lorelai spent a lot of time not being able to figure out who she is based on like her own ideals, because her mom had so many plans and so many designs on what her life was going to look like, that I think when she saw that happening to her daughter, she was like, I cannot have this happen again. And so that's sort of the catalyst. Like, I think maybe less of a trauma response to what was happening to her, but like a need for something different to be an option for her daughter. And then also want to point out, Emily's the mom. So even though it's like a chicken and egg situation, like, Lorelai was a teenager and Emily was her mom, and it really like was her responsibility to, be there for her daughter in other ways that she needed. And so obviously that didn't work out because their personalities, but I just think, like, I love Emily, but I do think, I think it's more on her than on Lorelai, in my opinion. That's just my 2 cents.
What could Lorelai? What could Emily have done to keep Lorelai from? I mean, like taking that to the extreme, right? Couldn't Lorelai? Or sorry, I keep saying, couldn't Emily have just straight up like gotten like law enforcement in and whatnot, and gotten her daughter?
I mean, probably. She was what, 15 when she left?
Yeah, 16, I think it was.
Okay, well,
she still wasn't. She was a minor.
Maybe it would have been harder because, yeah, she's technically a minor, but I think it's pretty tough once they're 16 or above. It's pretty tough to like get the law super involved because there's a lot more freedoms at that age.
And she was a mother too. It's harder to, like, once a teenager's a mother, they have autonomy over themselves and the kids.
So here's one thing that I'll say about that. if Lorelai is the type of person who just rejects that whole world and all of that stricture and whatnot that Emily was bringing in, that Emily thinks is normal, and actually probably other people, other mothers probably think are. Emily. It's totally normal to Emily and probably other mothers, and maybe even normal to other daughters, right? Like there are probably plenty of daughters who never really thought that there was anything like, you know,
the little girls
to rebel about, right? Like Lorelai is a very particular person. And one of the things that the series has shown is that Rory isn't like her mother in many ways. Almost from the get-go, we see Rory starting to embrace this world. And so the idea that Lorelai would sort of make this decision for her daughter based on her own life. Oh, I don't want this to happen to this little girl that happened to me, so I'm taking her out, deprives Rory of the chance to decide whether or not she feels the same way about all of these things that Lorelai did.
But that's an example that shows that Lorelai and Emily are actually very much alike. Emily's life is one way and she expects Lorelai to fit in it. Lorelai decided to reject that life and she expects Rory to also reject it.
Right.
They both are set in this idea that they know
their
better
world, that
for
their
others.
worldview, that their
So
worldview
true,
is
Mary.
the worldview, right? The way that they live life, that's the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think I agree with that because she let her go to Chilton and she like had the Harvard, you know, so I think some parts of that life she did allow in with Rory. So I don't think I agree with that.
But
Yeah,
she
I
always
wanted to
tried to
say,
convince Rory that her grandparents' life was not the right way to live, even though she let her go to Chilton. She let her go to Chilton so that she could try to get into Harvard. It was more about the end game, not letting her live in that world or that life. It was more about the getting into the colleges that she thought she wanted to be in.
Right. And we also talked early on about how Harvard itself was a bit of a rebellion against her family as well. That was like, you know, the opposite school, and it was, you know, it was also the school that it sounded like she wanted to maybe go to. So there was a bit of rebellion that was even in some of the Chilton stuff. Although I agree that Chilton is sort of closer to that world. But from the beginning, we've seen Rory getting close to that world, and it made Lorelai feel very uncomfortable when she would start to see some of that. Jules, I know that you wanted to say something.
Yeah, sorry. And I do think that it made her really uncomfortable, but I think that was an example of like how she could be really uncomfortable with a situation from her perspective, but let Rory do it anyway, and really gave her those opportunities, even though she didn't like them. And I think that's the difference, is that she created a life that gave Rory choices instead of forcing her into one. And that probably is why Rory didn't hate it.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, that's true. That is a very big difference between them, is that ultimately Lorelai does relent, even though she doesn't like it. She does relent for the sake of her daughter. But again, I mean, yeah, no, I'll leave it there. That works for me.
So John, before you go, do you have any thoughts or comments you want to make regarding the Rory Logan stuff? Or do you just want to save it for another day?
Rory and Logan, long distance, they're gonna work. It's not gonna work. Rory and Logan are not gonna work. The long distance thing is already putting strains, and it's causing her to act in a way that is not. She doesn't like the way that she doesn't like who she is when she's missing him in that way, and I just think it's not gonna work.
So this is a prediction?
Yes, is a prediction. I'm gonna say I think that. Oh, and Carl wants to come on up to ask me if I want to put some furnace in it.
Okay, Mary's
Mary's taking notes of the prediction.
So brief, Carl.
Someone mentioned in the episode, and it's true, talking about repeating, they repeated the situation of him bringing her into
that was me.
a dinner or a party.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
like the
without
poker game.
knowing what's happening. And it's true. Like, yeah, that's happened.
Yeah. Oh, season 7.
But
season 7.
So that he's just not that aware, or not that he's clueless to the fact that she wanted to be with him alone and he thought she would want to be with a group.
I think when he said come celebrate, maybe he thought she would know the whole group would be there and just didn't quite clearly communicate it. But
I can definitely sympathize with that, because like,
yeah,
at least like the way my brain works, I'll say something and someone be like, huh? I'm just like, oh, that's right, I just totally had a whole conversation in my head and didn't actually give you context about what I was saying. So I definitely sympathize that he could have like thought that she knew there was going to be people there, but
because he had already told her had gone longer than they thought it would, and it went really well, and why wouldn't they all want to celebrate together? It's probably what he's thinking without actually saying it to her, but he wanted to see her at the same time.
Yeah.
Carl, are you asking for Colonel Bet or something down there?
No, he just came up, I think.
Oh, okay. Nothing.
You just happened to come up. You happened to ask to come up onto the couch right when I was making a big prediction. So the thought was that wanted to come up just a bit.
But I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation because the conversation has been really good tonight. See what happens when I'm not on the couch, y'all.
I do think that that it seems like they're setting up for them to break up, and mostly because of the long distance, that they can't make that work. That's what I'm guessing right now. But I mean, we're not even halfway through the season, and of course, as we know, all seasons are broken into 2 parts that are written mostly separately, so that could all change. He could move back to the US and all of that then becomes something very different. But I do think that it's very interesting, this new Logan, this focused Logan who really is into the work that he's trying to get done and all of that. He's this is exactly like what Mitchum was trying to give him, get out of this jumping off of planes and and doing stupid stuff. Let's get you focused. And that's what he is. He's a work dork now.
I was just going to ask you what you thought about business side of Logan. He obviously learned some things while he was at Yale goofing off to be able to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
So he wasn't a total goof, I guess, at school.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I like seeing.
I don't really understand his particular business, but his passion for what he's doing reminds me a lot of me, so I kind of like it. But I can, yeah. I mean, I like it. I can see how it would be hard for Rory, even. I mean, especially because they're long distance. I was long distance with both being a work dork and long distance for years, and it has worked out. But it feels like the writers are not going. It feels like the writers are not going in that direction, because that's a trope. I think that long distance doesn't work.
And I would say probably 75% of the time they let those relationships fail for the drama.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have another really good friend, a really close friend, and who is happily married to somebody who he was in a long distance. They're both good friends of mine. I met them together, and they were long distance, different countries as well, Mexico and the US, and they are happily married and were long distance for years, and so I feel like that's a TV trope, but maybe not.
Is. Well,
at least in this day, at least in this day and age, because it was probably that we live in a time when airfare is much cheaper than it was 40 years ago.
FaceTime.
FaceTime, you know, I mean, it used to be that long distance calls overseas were like, you know, hundreds of dollars just to talk for like, you know, an hour or so. Now that's like, it's $0 or it's the cost of your internet. And so I feel like it's probably an older trope that isn't as
not as relevant.
True.
Still.
It's not as true in like the global world that we live in today. Where
I don't think they write the story of the long distance to not create the conflict, because it's not real life. They're writing that to story. So it's like they're going to make the long distance because they're going to throw the conflict in there.
Yes. Yeah. And it's good conflict. Hey, I like it. And I like conflict. So I'm digging the story. I think it's cool. And that whole scene on the street was really cool, aside from the fact that it was just awesome. I just love seeing like super complex, like, especially because I know that show, I know that street from the lot. Like I know what that looks like when it's not being shot, like when there's nothing there, you know, when it's just an empty street with like storefronts and whatnot. So it's like, it's just cool to see how filmmaking brings something like a scene like that to life. But I also just really, really loved that little dialogue moment with Rory where she's just like completely just becoming a bit of a mess there.
I love the conversation between Rory and Lorelai on the phone.
Oh, that's all. I mean, I loved that. That was good. It went on a little longer than I'd say we were accustomed to. But it was, they definitely like danced around a few different important topics, the Logan thing, all of that. So it kept it like the energy and plot was moving forward in the actual dialogue, which made it work. And then it was just funny, all of the pickle stuff. And I love pickles. And by the way, Krista just reminded me that I took a picture of my Pickle Rick socks that I got for my birthday from Babsy. I'm a big Rick and Morty fan. So
I love Pickle Rick.
So you got to see, I posted them on Discord. I got a pack of Rick and Morty socks and immediately just pulled the Pickle Rick socks out and put them on.
Nice. Did you see who just joined the couch, by the way?
Pickle Rick?
Close. Very close. Sheev.
Oh, yes. Hello, Sheev. Are you a big Pickle Rick fan?
Oh, yeah. I've been on Rick and Morty for a minute.
For only 1 minute? For only one solitary minute? I mean, that's...
I've never watched it, and it doesn't seem like something I like, so you know.
Oh, Lily, it's so good.
It's so very good, Lily. It's very good.
The writing is
good.
Really stellar on that.
Is that the cartoon? I've never seen it either.
Yes, it's the animated. It's the animated series. Yes.
Futurama. Pure continuity in the background.
Oh, so
you gotta get on Futurama. That's all I gotta say.
Don't like cartoons. They like animated series, right?
That's
right. Work dorks.
That's right.
We work dorks. We like our animated series.
I like anime.
Well, I think you would like Rick and Morty. It's got some anime aspects of it in it.
I don't.
I mean, I've seen like a lot of clips of it, and it just doesn't not look like something I would like enjoy. But you know,
I'm not hearing it, Wendy. I'm not hearing it, Wendy.
We're like we're suddenly getting like a bunch of people who want to come up on the couch. My guess is we've got some Rick and Morty fans coming up.
Oh no!
Hannah,
all I wanted to say was Futurama. You got to get on it soon.
Okay.
Futurama is awesome, but Rick and Morty is the best. It is a great show. They take a lot of time to create it.
I knew you were coming up to say that.
They took a lot of time to create this show, and they've come out with some excellent work on it. And I thought it was stupid in the beginning, but it really warms up to, and a lot of great content comes out of it.
And there's it's so good. It is very goofy. It's very silly. I mean, if you're somebody who really loves The Simpsons stuff, that it also has like some of the wackiness of The Simpsons. But when they go like heartfelt, they pull at the heartstrings. There are some really like deep, sad episodes.
So does Futurama. Have you seen Jurassic Park?
Okay. I'm gonna.
Girl,
watch
it's been so long
Futurama.
since I watched Futurama. We're gonna have to watch it together.
I will host any episodes you want.
I feel like just in terms of like in terms of the Gilmore Girls, just in terms of the Gilmore Girls canon, I feel like I should probably, like, I of all people should probably watch Futurama and
you could understand Brian better that way. You could understand your character.
You know,
his character had figure on the toys
on Netflix is it went around on like TikTok for a while, so I finally got into it. Was Big Mouth. Oh, it's pretty good.
That's a good one too.
It's really like wild, but you know, it's good.
I'm gonna head off. I'm going to start to get ready for bed.
By the way, thank you for getting our guest for tomorrow.
And actually more important than that, I actually have to text him with the information. Well, I have to text him with the information of how to actually do it, so that we don't so that we actually have a guest tomorrow. This was all done so incredibly last minute. It was really like at 4:30 he texted me back, or he or messengered me back saying, yeah, sounds interesting, tell me more. And I had the big song and dance, you know, we're a community of folks who like to watch our favorite television shows together. He's like, oh man,
you have a theme song, huh? Well, we all appreciate what you're doing. We all appreciate what you do every night here with us, and so we're really glad that you were able to pull that off.
Whoever just did theme song has just gotten in my head that I need to like attempt to make a little like jingle for Marcus now. Oh boy.
Wonderful.
And since you're such a work dork, don't forget to do the reservation wall if you're still planning to do that. Yes, I
will. I'm going to do that. I'll do that right now. Apparently there's some creme brulee thing that I'm now eager to find out what that is. So that should be fun. All right. So I'm going to head out and
good night, John.
Message him and get the reservation wall up, and we are, and I'll do. This is another reason why you should be on Discord or check Discord. I'm going to do a message tonight saying that the reservation wall is up so that you can do that. And we still have a little bug in the reservation wall that, like, if you like make a reservation and then you're like, you know what, I don't really want to, and you cancel it out, it's going to delete it right now, and that could potentially delete somebody else's as well. Just a bug I haven't had a chance to fix. So we do still need you to like double check that your reservation's still there right before we go tomorrow. So just a reminder, I would get your reservation in and then just watch it.
How many minutes before the event starts do we have till?
8 minutes before. So at 8:52 Pacific time.
8 minutes. That's so oddly specific.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I don't know why I did that.
5 minutes was too close. I think is what you did.
Yeah, it was like 5 minutes was too close, but I didn't want it to do it at 10 minutes because that's when everybody arrives. So it was like, 10 minutes, wait, no, over, you know? So I wanted to at least give you like 2 minutes when we arrive. It's like, okay, you have 2 minutes, go do it. But I didn't want it to be like 5 minutes. Because then if it was 5 minutes, then we wouldn't start until like 7:15 or something like that. So it's, I don't know why I did that. I should probably change it.
Something about that number 8, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
All right, everyone.
I just have to jump in and say,
night, John.
Great job co-hosting, Chris.
Fantastic job, Chris. Fantastic job. Have you already seen what your commission is?
I have not gone and looked, and I'm sorry I couldn't remember the episode when you asked me before we started. And after I realized what it was, I would have told you. I think you're going to enjoy the episode. Once I
like this episode. I like this episode. I thought it was really, really nice episode.
Hey, it's Friday. Out of the first 5 episodes, which one is your favorite so far?
Someone's trying to cut in on my fireside chats.
Sorry, Mary.
Before I used to ask I tease. Go ahead and answer.
I think that probably of these 5 episodes, well, I can tell you of these 5 episodes, first 2 episodes I did not enjoy. at all. So they're at the bottom of the list. I think it would either be I think it was Yesterday's. I really loved that like funny face moment. I love that little that I thought that was just so charming. That movie, like, you know, it's watching a movie on a barn. And, what's up?
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it was just marvelous. It was just wonderful. And it was my birthday, so maybe I was also influenced by that, and I was also drinking. So I'm gonna say Yesterday's, and I'm gonna head out.
Have a good night.
Have a great night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m.